Katie, you recently traveled to Afghanistan with Defense Secretary Robert Gates. What were you most struck by, or what was the most interesting thing you discovered during your travels and interviews?
I think Robert Gates is a Secretary of Defense who is unbelievably committed to the troops on the field. I think that's reflected in the Department of Defense budget that he has drawn up that really takes money away from conventional billion-dollar, gee-whiz, high-tech weapon systems and puts it toward the troops and the things that they will need to fight in counterinsurgencies like the ones the U.S. is currently engaged in Iraq and Afghanistan. So he is incredibly committed to them, and I think it really informs everything he does and says.
What does he say about the timeline for Afghanistan?
He is not fond of timelines, not surprisingly, and when we pressed him on the number of troops that were needed to really conduct an effective counterinsurgency, he balked. Some counterinsurgency experts say it would take 600,000 troops, Afghan army and police, to destroy the Taliban. Even the Pentagon itself has said that number would be 400,000. But he doesn't like those numbers, and he said it really all depends on how effective the mission is, how fast the Afghan military is brought up to speed, and how well the U.S. strategy works. So he told us it would be at least 2 to 4 years before the Afghan military could take the lead in operations on the ground there, and it certainly sounded as if we might be there for some time. On the other hand, he doesn't want the United States seen as an occupying force, so I think he resists the idea that this mission is indefinite in terms of time period.
Secretary Gates has served with 8 presidents. He's the only member of President Obama's cabinet left from the Bush administration. What do you think his staying power is?
I think he has a healthy dose of skepticism about the comings and goings in the nation's capital. He really doesn't like Washington, D.C. He's very much like David Souter in that way. He hates to go to dinner parties. He really doesn't want to socialize. And I think he has an attitude that I feel it's my duty to do this job, but as soon as I'm not needed, I won't be crying if I head to Washington State with my wife and start a new life. So I don't think he's desperate to hold on to power. He feels an incredible sense of obligation, as I mentioned, to the troops. But if this job ended tomorrow, I don't think he would be heartbroken necessarily.